I've made 2 documentaries for this band, and I have made a lot of mistakes. I'm about to go on tour with them for the 3rd time, and in this video, I'm going to review those missteps so that potentially you can learn from them and to make sure that I do not repeat them. If you're new here, my name is Eric, and I am a cinematographer based out of Boston. So the band in question is Darwin D's. My first tour with them was in 2017, and that's 5 years ago now, which in video development time is a lifetime. So it's safe to say I'm a little embarrassed by the quality of work I produced back then. If you're interested in the story of how I first started working with them, you can check out the video I will link up there, and it's probably my favorite video that I've made for this YouTube channel. If you scroll back far enough, you'll see that long before I was posting videos about videos, I was making videos for bands exclusively. I played music, all my friends played music, so that was both what was available for me to film at the time and what I was, and kind of still am, mostly interested in, music. So all that to say, touring with a band that I am a fan of to make videos was kind of a dream job for me. So when the opportunity presented itself, of course I did it, for free. So it wasn't quite a job yet, but at that point, I honestly don't think I was worthy of being compensated for making a film. I had not proven that I was capable of making a documentary. In retrospect, that first film is just a 20-minute highlight reel. All of the best shots and funniest moments cut together, which could be compelling to a fan of the band, but it was not really a cohesive story that could draw anyone else in. Now, of course, I think that my storytelling and cinematography left a lot to be desired, but at the time I was stoked on it, and luckily the band liked it enough too, because the next year, Darwin offered to legitimately hire me to do it again. The second tour ended up being a docu-series with 5 parts, for no real other reason than my desire to make it a little bit different than the first film. It very much could have been, and probably should have been, a single standalone YouTube video. The algorithm probably would have treated it much kinder that way, especially considering that the band's manager wanted to upload all the videos the same day. I knew I wanted it to be cohesive, so I have a beginning in episode 1, and I did kind of tie that story up in the end of episode 5, but the middle section basically fell into the same trap as the first film, where I just kind of had the most compelling moments be their own episodes, whether or not they were relevant to the greater story. For instance, there's a full episode where the band has a crazy long drive in the middle of night in Texas and gets lost. I tried to have each one of those episodes have its own mini arc while still playing into the greater narrative of the series, and I think I failed. It turned out to be 5 little vignettes, not a single cohesive story. However, I do think episode 3, despite not tying in too well to the greater narrative, is actually potentially my favorite edit that I've ever made. And that's because I weaved multiple narratives together in a creative way. So the band was working with a lot of broken down equipment, and they have a new member who doesn't quite know how to operate all of this broken down equipment or how to even play all of the songs. So we follow their attempts to repair or replace the equipment. All the while, the new guitar player is trying to learn some fan favorites that have been requested throughout the tour.
That sounds good, actually.
2 separate stories from 2 separate parts of the tour, woven together in the edit. I took a live performance of the song the guitar player is learning and used it kind of as the score to the episode. And the climax of the keyboard storyline is intercut with the climax of the song the guitar player is performing live for the first time. And it creates sort of like a triple payoff where you get the tension released from both storylines and the performance all at once. It honestly gave me goosebumps the first time I put those pieces together in the edit after they had been living in separate timelines for a month. This was a few years ago, and when it comes to cinematography, I cannot watch that episode I'm proud of without picking apart my filming. The way that I composed or exposed certain shots kills me. First off, a lot of the shots just look super lazy. I was shooting mostly on zooms, and you can tell. So right off the bat on the new tour, I'm just using primes. I had a really bad habit, especially on the first tour, of attempting to properly expose shots by bringing skin tones up to like 70 IRE-ish range, no matter what else was in frame. That is a super amateur move, not only because it leads to blowing out highlights and crazy digital noise if you're in a dark scene, but it also doesn't have the right mood or vibe. If a character is in a dark environment and they're in shadow, it should look like they're in shadow. I did not mess this up nearly as much on the second tour, which I shot on my C100 Mark II, but on the first tour, shot on the A7S Mark I, notorious for its high ISO performance, which I was all too eager to use, had me falling into this trap. And I was always bumping up that ISO to expose a character's face, ending up with a really ugly digital looking shot. So now my hope is that this third doc is the sweet spot where everything kind of comes together and I create a film I want to put on my website as the thing I do, creating compelling cinematic documentaries where you actually care about the story. That's my hope anyway. So really quickly, let's dig into that word that I just used, cinematic. I'm attempting to make this cinematic in a number of ways, which include the aspect ratio, the stabilization, and my lensing. If you're interested in the lenses and stabilization I'm choosing for this tour, check out this video I posted recently where I narrowed down all of my gear into a single backpack of essentials to make this documentary.